Now, the big moment, time to go and take Project Audi 80 on its longest drive for a long time. Hello guys, and welcome to this Volks Wizard video, which is actually episode 4 of Project Audi 80. Now, a lot has happened since the last episode, which we'll talk about in due course, but the main job today is to change that pesky fuel level sender. It's taken 4 attempts to get the correct part, but I'm pretty confident this will be the right one, primarily because of where it's come from. Famous last words, maybe. After that, I'll give you a tour of the interior, because you may remember from the last episode there are a few bits to do in there to make it standard again. And after we've done all the dirty work, I'll give you a tour of this amazing Audi Cabriolet, which has got a lot in common with Project Audi 80, but is also very different. And then finally, we're going to give the car its longest drive in a long time. It's going to come home with me about 25 to 30 miles, and you can come too by the power of GoPro. So without any further ado, let's step back to the 90s with Project Audi 80. Okay, let's get this fuel level sender changed then once and for all. This saga goes back to the very early days when I was working on the fuel tank. I took the sender out and I realised it was corroded. One of the wires had rusted so much it had just broken and there was no signal going to the gauge. So I ordered one from Germany, gave it a month to arrive, didn't arrive, got my money back from eBay. Actually, in the meantime, while waiting for that one, I bought a 2.5 TDI one in the UK, because you just can't buy them in the UK, but that didn't work, so that went in the bin. I then ordered one from Latvia, and that took about 3 weeks to come. Looked perfect, but when I put it in the tank, I realised the arm that's really important was on the wrong side, and there's no spare room in these. If it's not on the right side, it's going to hit something, and it was hitting the return fuel line that goes to the bottom of the swirl pot, and you just couldn't be confident it wouldn't stick on that and misread. So I've bitten the bullet, paid about 3 times more than these used ones, but I'm pretty confident it'll be correct. We'll get it out shortly. Firstly though, we've got to get the old one out of the tank. It's going to be pretty hard to film this, so I've got a GoPro up here. I'll try and talk to that while I do it, because it shouldn't take too long. But basically that's the return line, that's the supply line that's under pressure, that's why it's a proper tough pipe. That's the electronics for the sender and the pump, and that is it. So undo that and then reach in. The reason I'm working this way round rather than from the boot, because the sender's on the back of the tank and you can actually see it more if you work on it from this angle. So let's get working. Okay then, so let's undo the electrics and then the fuel return hose. I always take these off so they don't get lost down the tank there, and then that just leaves the supply, the 17mm socket. Make sure you don't lose the washers. Okay, and then next we need to hammer off the ring that retains it all in the top of the tank. So you've got to go anti-clockwise. And then we need to unplug the sender, which is the black plug. Now for the tricky bit, getting your hand in and flicking the tab. Well, I've done this a few times. Okay, that wasn't too bad, but then I have done it a few times before. There is the sender that came from Latvia. And here is the new one. And when I say new, I mean new. I have to admit I have had a quick look at it because it would be a very short video if this was wrong. But all I've done is check that the arm is on the right side. Okay, so as you can see, that one sweeps to the right of the car, and this one sweeps towards the passenger side. Yep, that's a little wire. Don't know if you can see there, the blue one, that had corroded because there must have been moisture in the tank when it was standing. So really, it should be a straightforward job to fit that, and we can finally trust the fuel level. It's kind of important to trust your fuel level because with an older car like this, you've got enough to worry about. You don't really want to have to worry about whether the fuel gauge is reading correctly, and it's not an old car, you know, it should have a fuel gauge that's quite accurate. Now there is the bill. This part came from Audi Tradition, so you can't really get better than that in Ingolstadt, and it cost £89.40, but the shipping is quite dear to the UK. It's about €30, so it's always good to mix it with a few other bits, which I have done, which we'll come to later. But Audi Tradition are a part of Audi AG, and they deal with the parts that have been deleted from the main dealer's inventory. So the RS2 is the main one on their website, but I'll say that's the same era as this car. There's much older stuff as well, so it's worth a look. So I'll put a link in the description below. I didn't even know about this, and I should do, shouldn't I? But thanks to Sean from the RS3 Owners Club, he tipped me off about this, and they supplied a part for the Audi Cabriolet, and they've got me out of trouble with this as well. So yeah, priceless information. Right, let's hope it's correct after all that praise singing and get it fitted. Okay, well that wasn't too bad, easy DIY job. Not even wearing overalls today. I should point out, when you're working with petrol you do need to wear gloves, and normal gloves are useless, they just disintegrate. These are called Gripster skins, so not sponsored content. The guy down my local parts place said, why don't you try these, because they ran out of normal gloves because of coronavirus, and they are amazing. They don't last forever, but you can definitely wear them like 2 days and they last a lot better with petrol, because I mean this is the hand I think I put in and it hasn't all blistered. So yeah, Gripster skins. Okay, again, a stupid thing this really, but quite important to enjoying the car. So let's make sure it's not in gear. And let's watch that gauge. So it's a bit slow being an older car. I reckon it should be around 1/4 of a tank. Come on boy, you can do it. You can do it all the way from Ingolstadt for your pleasure, Fuel tank level sender. Is there more to come? Are we staying there? Are we going for just under a quarter? Oh, gone for quarter. Stay at quarter. Is that the best you can do? Quarter of a tank. Okay, well, I'm pleased with that, as long as there isn't a fountain of petrol spraying out from the module. All right. So yeah, that looks good. Okay, I'll leave it running for a bit and then maybe I'll put the lid back on, which would be remarkable. Okay, next up, I'll give you a tour of the interior and show you what we've done and what we're going to do. You may remember it was in pretty good condition, but then it's only done 5,000 miles. But for some reason, somebody had slapped in some of the gauges from a higher spec model and not plumbed them in. So I thought it was easier just to take them out altogether and put the car back to standard. At least I thought it was. They'd also changed the centre console and the bit that runs to the handbrake and back, which is another bit of the centre console. So it's a bit more involved than just taking them out. I'll show you where we're at. So this is the original centre console with the gear shifter bit. Now originally there was an ashtray in there and the gauges sort of sat here. On this model, the ashtray should be suspended under the air conditioning controls or the heater controls, and this should have nothing on it apart from a bit of felt. Well, I'm pretty sure it would be a different model to this centre console, but because it's so hard to get them and because of left-hand drive, right-hand drive issues, you can't even get them from Europe, I've decided to make this one look how it should look. So firstly, I filled in the gap where the ashtray went with this gauze, attached it with some amazing Audi glue, so that's pretty good. Just putting the felt over it, you can see we're nearly there, and that's pretty rigid. So actually I think just cutting the felt to shape and putting it there will be fine. I think when the ashtray comes that I've ordered that suspends underneath the heater controls is fitted, you can't see these screws. But if you can, I'll get more felt and just put felt at the sides. So that should be good. Now, there was nothing really wrong with the centre console bit, apart from somebody had drilled it. So it obviously came out of a second-hand car, all this stuff. And I don't know, what was it, a car phone or something like that. So I got another one, didn't realise, shouldn't have had a cigarette lighter, because the cigarette lighter on this car is in the ashtray bit here. But it shouldn't be too hard to run another 12-volt connection to there. And then you've got another one for like a USB, which, you know, even though it's an old car, we still need today. So that's that. It does look a bit rubbish with those bits missing, and it is quite noisy actually. A lot of transmission noise comes up through the car because the gearbox is actually under there, unlike a Golf where the gearbox would be over there. Because it's a longitudinal car, the gearbox extends backwards. Okay, the stereo wasn't working before, the speakers weren't, so now we've got speakers all around. So I've found the speaker wires. There are two in the back, one in each back door and one on the top of the dash each side, and they're all connected properly with an ISO connector, soldered and heat shrunk the connections. I'm not sure why they'd been messed around with. Maybe somebody stole the stereo and just cut the wiring. Just need to get the aerial boosted a bit because I can't even get classic FM now, so that's something else to look into. But that's the loom there that should go to the ashtray that's going to be here. But before, when I took all this out, that was just sat there because the ashtray was not connected, I think. Yeah, so we can just extend that to go to the second ashtray, which will second cigarette lighter, which will be here. So that's it then. So let's go, actually before we go and have a look at the convertible, there is another bit I bought from Audi Tradition, because the postage is so high you better make sure you get everything you need. So a friend of mine pointed out the bonnet wasn't sitting correctly because this wasn't right. So on this side you can see it's got a big rubber bit on top of it. On here it's missing, so I thought, will they have it, won't they? And guess what, they did. It wasn't particularly cheap though, I think it was about €9, but you've got to get it right, and the postage is the same anyway. So right, on to this convertible. Okay, so this car was on Audi UK's fleet from day one. It did about 10,000 miles in the first year, and then it got retired and sent to the company that look after the heritage fleet, and it sat there doing pretty much nothing as far as I'm aware. It's a very unusual car in that it's more than just a final edition. So there was a press release that came out when the final edition was announced, and it said you can have the top dog, which is a final edition, or if you want to go one step further, you can treat it to a package of customization, which includes seats, door cards and steering wheel, or even the gear gator. And there we go. It's bright. It's even got it on the floor mats. I kind of like it. I don't think necessarily the wood goes very well with it, but as a package, I think it's pretty cool. It's called Brilliant Yellow, I believe. It's a 2.8, which is the top engine, so it's a traditional V6. It's a manual, which is quite unusual, and it's got air conditioning, which I think was an option. It's also got cruise control, which, to my surprise, is operated via vacuum. Oh, the mileage, by the way, 11,666. I must add a mileage to that, a mile to that quickly before it becomes a bit of a bad omen. Okay, so it's a proper big V6. This engine continued into the A4 and A6, and the sort of similar engine was turbocharged for the RS4 B5. So that, apparently, is the throttle control for the Cruise, because it's a drive-by-cable throttle, not drive-by-wire. So, fascinating. Well, if you want to see more on this car, let me know, because I'm really unsure about what to do with it. It's for sale and it's going to get sold quite soon, but I've got it for a few more weeks, and hopefully a bit of time after lockdown I can drive it and make a video like that rather than just a walk around. So yeah, let me know what you want to know about it, and maybe it'll be enough to form a video. Now, the big moment, time to go and take Project Audi 80 on its longest drive for a long time. Okay guys, here we are behind the wheel of Project Audi 80 with the longest journey ahead of it that it's had for quite a long time. I've reset the trip to 0. I reckon we'll be doing 25 to 30 miles. Everything seems to be working all right, well, apart from the radio aerial. How long it will stay like that for, I do not know. Hopefully 25 to 30 miles, or actually ideally 50 to 60, so I can get back again tomorrow. I should point out I am filming this during lockdown. I am allowed to drive to and from work. You don't have to be a key worker. Trust me, if you're not getting paid to stay at home, you do need to work, and filming it is neither here nor there. I say that because my R8 video seemed to offend a few people, even though I was just filming my work. Anyway, without any further ado, before I sweat like a pig, let's get going. We haven't got air conditioning, but we do have some windows, and we do have a blower, which actually feels quite nice. Probably not the best time to put it on my head, but I bought something else from Audi Tradition. It was only €9 and it looks so cool. It is a bit cheap. I feel like Cooter from the Dukes of Hazzard, but it seems to be a fitting thing to wear to commemorate the moment. So let's get going. So fuel gauge is getting up to quarter way. Just move my mic over like so. So yeah, should be all right. Still got to fix the self-cancelling indicator that's not self-cancelling on the one side. Don't hit my GoPro with the peak of the cap. So yeah, that's probably another job for the next episode. Okay, so what I'm worried about when I'm driving is hesitation. So like a flat spotty type misfire. Particularly in the higher gears at lower revs. So we're in 4th now up this hill at 40. It feels pretty good. Okay, just approaching the first bit of open road. Into 3rd, the mighty 90 horsepower deployed to the full. 50. 55, 60, into 5th gear, 65, 70 miles per hour. Wow, this car is awesome, it's epic. wheel wobble at around 65, but it's probably just balancing, so I'm not too worried. Now this bit of road is the road where I properly learned to drive on. I've been driving for about 6 years. I commuted from Birmingham to Stratford up on Avon, and I used to go the short way but the gnarly way. My boss used to go on the motorway in her A4. I used to come down here in a variety of Golf GTIs, and yeah, it was a bit hairy in the winter and there were loads of hazard horses, mud, potholes, storms, but this little bit of road made me appreciate handling over performance. It's a 60 mile an hour bit of road, but some of the corners you really cannot take at 60. Most memorable was a Mark II Golf GTI 16 valve. I'd be driving Mark IIIs actually at that time, but a Mark II out here just felt so at home, and you could really wind it up. This car doesn't feel as precise as that, but it's not too terrible. Let's just pitch it in here. Yes, some roll. Yes, a bit more roll. There's some pedestrians. It seems all right. Once you get past the roll, it seems pretty okay. Okay, we're 27 miles in now, and everything's feeling pretty good. We've got just under a quarter of a tank. We've got 90 degrees on the coolant gauge. Even the clock looks right. Now, being my longest drive in the car, it's the first time I've had to get a feel for the engine. I know it's a 2 litre 8 valve with single point injection. I know that only too well. Referring back to cars I've driven in the past, it's pretty similar to the Mark III Golf GTI, and it's similar to the one below it, the Mark III Golf Driver. It's sort of somewhere in between, because the Driver was a 1.8 single point injection. This is a 2 litre single point injection. The GTI was a 2 litre multi-point injection. So if you remember back to when the Mark II GTI was superseded by the Mark III, the general consensus was that that engine, the Mark III one, the 2 litre, wasn't a particularly pleasant one. Didn't like to rev, had more torque which suited the heavier characteristics of the newer car, but yeah, it wasn't a very GTI engine, and this car without the multi-point injection of that car isn't particularly zesty, shall we say. So yeah, it pulls really well at lower revs. That's to mean fourth. We'll take fifth at this hill at 45 miles an hour, 44 miles an hour, 43. Okay, maybe it'll take fourth, but it doesn't seem to want to rev. So if you pop it into second, just see what these lights are doing. They're on red. Well, a good time to show you if it will rev or not then. So into first. Actually, it's all right in first. Second, yeah, it's a little bit jerky. It could be just this car, but I suspect it's not much of a rever because the Mark III GTI wasn't one either, and that was with multi-point. But lower revs, it's just fine. Okay, well, here we are in rural Warwickshire. So we've done about 30 miles, and well, yeah, the car's done pretty well. I wouldn't say the project was anywhere near finished just yet. There's quite a few bits to do, like the cam belt, the interior needs finishing, the radio area. I'm sure there'll be lots more. And something that's really causing me grief is trying to get a new wheel trim, because this bit in the middle, which is part of the trim, has fallen off and it looks rubbish like that, and you can't even buy them from Audi Tradition, so it's just a case of scouring the internet for them, but I think I found some, so yeah, fingers crossed with that. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed episode 4 of Project Audi 80. If you have, as ever, please give it a thumbs up, please do comment, please do share it, and please do subscribe. I've checked my analytics and about 80% of views are from non-subscribers, which really doesn't help make this channel sustainable in the long term. So if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It's free of charge, and I'll see you for the next one soon.